Welcome to the Beyond the Vines podcast, where I interview local business owners in Sonoma County to highlight small business and grow our community. I'm your host, Amy Ehlers, a mom, realtor, and Sonoma County native, and I'm excited to connect you to some amazing people in this beautiful area that we call home. Welcome back to the Beyond the Vines podcast. Thank you again for listening. If you have been enjoying hearing these episodes with local businesses from our area, I would love for you to hit like and subscribe. I'm just so excited about all the businesses that have been coming on lately. It's such a variety, and it's so nice to meet everybody. That being said, I am here today with Brian Barrett and Thomas Casey from New York Life and Eagle Strategies. I am super excited to bring them in here today to tell us more about the financial world. They are both financial advisors. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about each of them before we dive in. So Thomas Casey is a native of Long Island, New York, far away from us, and graduated from the State University of New York in 2013 with a bachelor's degree in communications. Having a passion for music, particularly percussion, he moved to Santa Rosa, California in 2013 with two longtime friends and musicians in the hopes of becoming a professional, potentially famous drummer. I have a feeling since he's here today, plans might have changed. Unfortunately, making it in the music industry is a lot harder than he initially thought, and it involves a lot of luck, like a lot of luck. That is why in 2014, he joined the Northern California office of New York Life under the stewardship of then senior partner Bob Palmer and a number of skilled agents and advisors. Since beginning in the world of finance, he has worked to develop a client referral base from the ground up and operates in 13 states under his DBA, Rhythmic Financial and Insurance Solutions. Thomas holds his FINRA Series 6 and 7 licenses and his NASA Series 63 and 66 licenses, and is affiliated with New York Life Securities, LLC and Eagle Strategies, LLC. He's also currently working towards his Chartered Financial Consultant designation through the American College. He thoroughly enjoys the work that goes into building personal plans for individuals, families, and small businesses, and providing financial strategies for those that are working to achieve their short, mid, and long-term financial goals. In his free time, Thomas still plays drums for a number of local bands, performing live as well as in recording sessions. He's also a member of the Rohnert Park 656 chapter of Active 2030, a nonprofit organization that focuses on raising funds, providing resources for underprivileged kids in Sonoma County. That is so awesome. I definitely want to hear you play sometime, by the way, so we'll talk more about that. That would be so fun. And then I also would like to introduce you to Brian Barrett. Brian Barrett is a financial advisor with New York Life and Eagle Strategies. He started his career in finance at New York Life a little under 7 years ago and holds several licenses, including the Series 7, 66, 63, and 6. By the way, I have no idea what that means, so maybe you can tell me about that.
It's a bunch of emojis, but they're important.
A little important. He also holds his life and health license. Brian primarily works with nurses and their families on financial planning and ensuring that they are set up for financial success. He takes an education first, planning second approach to his practice with an emphasis on strategies that address most urgent financial goals first. Brian is originally from Monterey in Southern California. He moved to Sonoma County to attend Sonoma State University and graduated in 2017 with a bachelor's degree in business marketing. He takes part in supporting several community organizations. Brian is currently a board member in the Active 2030 Club of Rohnert Park, sits on the Advisory Council for Sonoma County Alliance, regularly attends events for Young Professionals Network of Santa Rosa, as well as the Be Better Network, and supports several nonprofits such as the Boys and Girls Club, the Zones, and Common Ground Society. Brian is newly married. He and his wife Evelyn enjoy getting outdoors and hiking, golfing, and getting in the water as much as possible. They currently live in Santa Rosa, a house I know well, and are expecting their first child this July. Oh my gosh, July is sneaking up on us.
It's coming up quick.
For some reason, I was thinking the baby was due at the end of the year. That is crazy.
No, it's like right around.
It's coming. Well, welcome both of you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
I'm very excited to have you here. So can you tell us, and you guys can either take turns or decide how you want to do this, but how you both got started in this industry?
I'll go first.
Yep.
So mine was kind of incidental. Like I said, moved out from New York with a couple of friends with the intention of being a musician, and realizing you can't pay the bills or eat off of hopes and dreams. Kind of just looked around for some type of professional career, and just by happenstance stumbled upon the office of New York Life in Santa Rosa. And really under the mentorship of the individual that was mentioned, Bob Palmer. I mean, that's really what kind of helped me stay. And just through loving the industry, loving the work that goes into it, and just learning more about what types of services are offered, different issues that people run into, different situations, how to navigate it. That's why I decided to keep doing this.
That's awesome. I feel like it is, in knowing you, I feel like you're such a numbers guy. It's just funny to think that that's not what your original plan was, because you fit so perfectly into this.
So it's funny because like when I actually thought about that a while ago. When you take drumming, and especially the type that I do, which is very progressive based, it is actually a lot of math behind it. So it kind of was symbiotic.
Yeah.
The work that goes behind investment stuff or numbers based, whatever, calculations, and then that side of the music industry.
That's really interesting. Very interesting. What about you, Brian?
I got started because I had graduated from Sonoma State, and I was still working at North Bay Biz at the time. I was in advertising and marketing and branding. And at that time, I'd look around. I was looking for marketing-related roles, and I just didn't enjoy the big corporate style of that type of marketing. And I was just having a really hard time finding something I enjoyed. So after about a year, I went to a job fair, and I met someone who introduced me to Bob, and then he taught me about the career. And one of the things I've always been so interested in is money and finance.
Yes.
And a lot of that had to do with what I went through as a kid, because my parents separated when I was young. They went through bankruptcy. They lost everything. We were a middle-class family, good living, went to basically, not food stamps per se, but it was a massive change in lifestyle.
Yep.
And watching them go through that really motivated me to want to work hard and be financially successful in whatever I did, but also to give them an opportunity to do the same for themselves. So when we had the chance to okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to look at for my career? And I found this outlet for finance. And when I learned that it was so much more than just insurance planning and these other things, it really opened my eyes to wow, we can help people, and why don't they teach us in school?
For sure.
And so it's just been a lot of work and a lot of success, and it's been a very enjoyable career so far, and I love what I do, and I'm so glad I made the choice. But it was not easy in the beginning.
Yeah.
And the motivation behind it was definitely because of what happened to my folks.
That's really interesting too, because I always listen to financial podcasts and read a lot of books, and it's always what's your earliest money memory, and it really shapes so much of how we all behave and handle money. And so it's interesting that led you to your career choice essentially, and helping others. Yeah, that's amazing. How did you two meet?
So that actually
I feel this might be an entertaining story.
Yeah, it is actually. So when I was interviewing with the senior partner, I had just had a major basketball injury on my right leg.
Oh, wow.
And I had torn my ACL and my meniscus.
Oh, my gosh.
I was basically in crutches for 3 months before surgery. Well, during those interview months, I was coming into the office on crutches. You can't wear a suit and tie on crutches. The very first time I had to go in, I was in basketball shorts and a polo shirt. And that was the nicest quality thing I could put together given my circumstances.
How funny.
And Bob had introduced me to Tom, because I think he just pulled you into the meeting at one point just to introduce yourself. And then we actually got to talking in your office. We were talking for an hour.
Yeah.
That first time I was hanging out at the building. And then you kicked me out because you had appointments. So,
you do have to work. Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah. So, but it was a collaborative space. It still is.
Wow.
And we still work together with clients to this day. So
that's amazing. That's really, and I love hearing how you guys met, because I feel like you guys are the dynamic duo,
It's a good dynamic.
Yeah, it really is. That's amazing. So what kind of sets you apart in the realm of financial services, and how do you approach financial planning differently than other firms?
Well, so it's less so focusing on what other people do. We just try to focus on what we want to do for our clients, how we try to put them in the best possible space. So what we try to focus on and strive in is obviously listening is key. So making sure that the people we speak to feel like they're heard, know that they're heard. It's an engaging conversation. We don't put product first. We don't put numbers first. It's all about understanding what their short, mid, long-term goals are, And then, as Brian would mention, putting education first. So to the degree that they want to know or are willing to know how certain functions operate. And then, again, just making sure that we keep that line of communication open before we start delving into implementation and all this stuff. So, again, listening is key, keeping a line of communication, and then being completely transparent, both in how things work, how we operate, and why we're recommending what we recommend.
I think that transparency is so key being on this side, and you guys are very good about that and making sure we understand how things work, where it's going, all of that. It's amazing.
Well, even amongst the differences between Tom and I, we don't work with the same people all the time. We have our own clients that we individually work with.
Right,
we have
and
a
I
lot
forget
of
that.
shared clients as well, but we have such a good synergy. And one of the things that I tell people when they ask me, so what's the difference between you and Tom? I say, listen, Tom's been here longer than I have. I learned under him a lot of the stuff. He's a genius when it comes to the math, and he's a numbers guy, whether he wants to admit it or not. But he's really good with this stuff. He spends so much time researching, and he has all these different qualities you never hear about that I see behind the scenes, but it helps the clients. And I have different qualities that are good for different people. So when we take a two-headed approach, sometimes Tom is a better fit for certain people and their needs, and I can be. But oftentimes we just combine and we make it work, and you get two different perspectives on the same topics. And you never know what happens, but I do think it's a better approach than just always being on this one path from one person. That's the only perspective that you'll see.
Right.
So it's a good dynamic for the work we do.
I think that's a really good point, in that you both bring different things to the table, so it's a 2-for-1.
There you go.
I love that. So can you walk us through the range of services you offer and how you meet the unique needs of each client?
Go ahead.
Sure. So when we work with somebody and they ask us, what do we do? It's one of the hardest questions in our business.
Yes.
Because there's different types of financial advisors, there's different types of financial planners, there's different emphasis of specialties and niches and planning, and there's so much in the financial space. So what do we do exactly? We mostly focus on the individual and their family and their individual wealth, whether that be protecting it, growing it, keeping it, and passing it on. Whatever stage we're at, we focus on that individual's wealth and where they're going. We do work with businesses, but it's a very small percentage of what we really focus on. We would more focus on the business owner's individual thing, what they have going on. From the process that we do, which is really kind of, I think, the thing that we're looking at is, what services do you do? Well, we do all the things around insurances and investments and retirement income planning. We can do all that. That's fine, but the process we take people through is really tailored to the individual. It's really hard to answer that question because it depends on the individual's need. If they're looking for some help with, hey, I just got into a new job, and what do I do with all my benefits? Well, we understand them. What's the priority? Let's address the priority, and then we can kind of go into what else you need to be working on. So there's just some topics there, but if it really boils down to what do those services look like, it's primarily retirement planning, insurance planning, or protection planning, depends on what area we're looking at, and then of course estate, legacy, things like that. Right. And that can incorporate something that's really broad, like a full service financial plan that covers A to Z for the next 40-year outlook and how things are taxed and passed on. I mean, it gets really in depth, right? You can do that. Right. Or maybe you just need to set up some insurance policies. It doesn't have to be overly complicated. It could be a really straightforward service that, hey, listen, we can help you with this. Let's get it set up, and let's work on the other stuff over time.
I mean, because of the breadth of services or whatever that we can provide, the main goal is to always make sure that we're not in a position where we feel like we're putting a square peg into a round hole.
Right. Right.
So
that's amazing. I love that you can kind of tailor it to people and really starting with what they need is the key piece.
Absolutely.
That's why people want to talk to us, right?
For sure.
There's an issue. Why would we not address the issue right now?
Yep.
If it's a bigger, process to go through, we're going to let you know. It's hey, listen, we got to go to this and this and this to really solve this issue. That's pretty rare, though. Usually it's a pretty straightforward, hey, let's get this done, and then what else is important to you? So
Right. Yeah, that's great. In your experience, what are some common misconceptions people have about financial planning, and how do you address them?
Tom?
So one of the most common ones would be, I don't have enough money, I can't afford it,
Right.
whatever the case is. And that's because a lot of the times the thought is that you have to walk in with X amount of dollars for someone to manage, so I'm told at least.
Right.
And the reality is, when we talk about financial planning, it's not always about managing investments. It's not always about trying to grow money. There are so many different topics within financial planning that it doesn't have to be just that one conversation. So to anyone's concern or the misconception behind it, if you're talking to a financial planner, the concern isn't, do I have enough money or can I afford it? It's, there's obviously a concern or something that might be keeping you up at night or causing a bit of stress. And that's the reason why you talk to a financial professional.
Right.
So, dissolving that idea would at least be a goal of mine, but that's generally one of the misconceptions.
That makes sense.
I agree
Yeah.
with Tom. There's not much else to add. That's probably the number one thing is
Yeah, interesting.
I feel like I don't have enough money, or is it too expensive?
Right.
There's no fixed cost per
Right.
client. It's always changing based on the individual. I mean, if you wanted to put 1,000 hours into a project, would you charge for 1,000 hours?
Right.
Of course, you wouldn't charge for 10 or 20. So depending on the circumstance, it would be tailored to the individual.
That's
But
great.
what I will say is this. Financial planning, working with a financial professional, depending on who it is, depending on how they operate, can be very affordable. It might be
Right.
the most affordable decision you ever do.
That's a good way to look at it.
So
That's a good way to look at that.
just a different perspective.
Yeah. So for anybody listening right now that maybe doesn't have a financial advisor and is having that misconception of, oh, I don't make enough money to have one or to start this process, it would be a good idea just to reach out to you and just kind of see.
Have a conversation. Conversations are free.
There you go.
We don't charge for that.
There you go.
That's not
right?
a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I will say, like, even at the beginning stages of this, when somebody's just getting started, or if they've never worked with a professional before, you'd be surprised at the amount of conversations that Tom and I have with our clients of like simple finance 101, like ground up,
Right.
even budgeting,
Right.
cash flow, understanding how that stuff works, understanding how a credit card works, understanding how the bank system works.
Definitely.
We have no problem kind of describing these things and teaching people that. Again, that's the
great.
education. That's free. We're
Yeah.
happy to do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't hesitate to reach out. That's really the big thing. And we see it a lot.
That's
We see it a lot.
awesome. Yeah, that you provide that. That's fantastic. Great. So how do you assess a client's financial situation and goals, and what factors do you consider when developing a personalized financial plan?
So, it, again, always goes back to listening, opening the floor to what their top priorities are, having a regimented questionnaire or some system of intake. That way we can stay organized.
Right.
And then again, systematically building out that short, mid, long-term goal horizon. So
Right.
it could be for someone planning for retirement, wanting to buy a home, start or exit a business, want to retire an X amount of dollars. It's just a matter of, again, diligently taking notes and making sure we cover all the bases when speaking to that individual.
We spend a lot of time working backwards. I mean,
Yeah,
we don't know.
yeah.
Listen, do we know the math behind certain things before you ever tell us? Of course, but that doesn't matter. We need to know what you, the individual, need.
Yep. Yep.
So once we know that, we can work backwards on a plan to make sure they get there. But
Right.
it's always about what is the person in front of me asking me for help for, and let's get that done. And then, like Tom said, we have a process we take people through to kind of address different needs at different points in time, and we teach them along the way.
That's awesome.
So.
Yeah, I love that. I always think that with real estate too, with buyers. I'm always like, let's work backwards. Like, yes, that's what you're pre-approved for, but let's figure out what you actually want to spend each month.
Yep.
And then we'll figure out what that house price point is.
Exactly.
Right? This sound a little familiar
Yeah,
to
it
you?
sounds really familiar.
Yeah, approved for $1 million.
Yeah, right?
It's going to be $10,000 a month.
Yeah. Work it back.
Yeah.
For sure. So, can you share any success stories or highlights that really you've experienced in your career that have really helped with your clients' lives?
We could be general about that, right?
Right.
Because of
privacy.
Yeah, absolutely. But I would say two stories stand out for me. One I'm working on right now, and one happened a couple years ago. I mentioned that I got into the business to help my folks get back on track financially, and help them get. They are.
It's amazing.
It took a couple of years of planning and effort
For sure.
and whatever. But I mean, we'll never be fully there, but they are in a position that is so much farther than where they started.
That's amazing.
And that was a couple years of work when I got started, and I'm super proud of them because it always comes back to the individual. The individual we're working with has to make those changes.
Right.
And that was a really rewarding experience for me because that's why I got in, right? There's another quite on the opposite side of things, quite sad situation. Tom and I in our business deal with a lot of mortality.
Right.
Passing of friends, clients, colleagues, and for some situations we handle the estate and we handle how it gets passed.
Wow.
It's tough. It's tough, especially when it's unexpected.
Yeah.
And it feels like the last couple of months, in my particular case, I've had several situations where we're working with and helping, the spouse or the beneficiaries get set up. And it's really tough, especially when they're friends. So.
Wow. You must have to really have that level of empathy when you're handling it, of being professional and then handling the sensitivity of it all.
Well, I heard something a while back when I first got started. There's a lot in our industry that can take a toll on somebody. There's a lot, just as humans, when we have the bad things happen and somebody passes away, you're dealing with some kind of health event or bad news that's going to be perpetually chronic or whatever.
Right.
We as advisors can't take away your emotional pain. We can't take away your social pain.
Right.
We can't take away your psychological pain. But we can help and sometimes eliminate the financial pain.
Right. Right.
And it's something I'm super proud of in the industry and the work we do, whether it's on the insurance side, investment side, legacy, whatever. And if we can say, hey, you're okay, you're good, we'll take care of you, it's powerful.
That's great.
So that's just a little bit of what's going on recently.
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot to handle.
I mean, you do something long enough and you get hit with as many circumstances as feasible. So, just openly, in a single month, I've had a client get put in a nursing home. I've had 2 clients pass away, one of which it's going through probate, handling all that. And if you deal with stuff like that on a first-time basis, it's hard to remove the emotional response even from our end.
Yep.
So it's a very fine balance of having had these experiences before and not only being sympathetic or empathetic, but being able to take our emotions aside for the time being and help think objectively while they're navigating those waters.
Right.
We have to do our job.
Yep. Yeah, because they are your clients, so you are connected with them, and you're experiencing a loss as well.
Absolutely.
And so, but to take that and focus on the objective.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't ever thought of that.
It doesn't get easier, but it just becomes more manageable.
And it also shows probably why it's so necessary for people to take these steps with their finances so that, someday, unfortunately, we're all going to be there and we want to make sure our loved ones are taken care of. Yeah.
But there's no perfect plan, right?
Right.
Everybody's going to have a situation where I set up every single box and everything's taken care of and allocated. But there's always one thing that can go wrong, and that's just the nature of planning.
Right.
We plan for the worst, hope for the best.
Yep.
Sometimes that happens, and we have to deal with it, and that's okay. But doing something is better than nothing, and it goes a long way.
Interesting. Yeah. That's
Proactivity versus reactivity.
Yeah.
Right. It's a helpful reminder. Yeah, that's great. With the ever-changing financial landscape, how do you stay updated with the latest trends, regulations, and investment strategies to best serve your clients? You guys just love that I'm asking you this.
So many ways.
This is a question where it's kind of broken up into 2 pieces. We have internal information and external information. We have, Tom and I were talking about this a bit earlier. Regulations in our industry are extremely tight, as you know.
Yes.
So in this particular case, when regulations come into play, you know, people on the internal side of our business that don't interact with clients, it's just for Tom and I, through New York Life, help us manage those regulations and keep us up to date on what we need to be doing, what we need to be saying, what we need to be disclosing, and we take care of all that stuff. And it's a very strict compliance required industry. So we try and abide by that. But on the other side, where really it comes more into play with clients is how much information do you think we absorb on a daily basis and spit it back out into, here's your solution, here's what we're going to be doing. You know, I think Tom and I during 2020 got asked about cryptocurrency and GameStop about every single day for a year.
In the past month or so, what do you think's been popping up in the conversation?
So, you know, we have to stay on top of the stuff, even if we don't necessarily deal with it or are allowed to deal with it. We have to know what's going on. So we take in a lot of information from a lot of different sources, because even within media, there's biases between articles, even on financial news. So when we're looking at the day-to-day stuff or the week-to-week stuff, economic news updates, we have a lot of sources for that we have. And then we have industry resources that we can research and use. And of course, there's ongoing training and stuff.
The other part is, and again, this is something that comes with time when you do something long enough, you know, the position Brian and I are in, you no longer even look at other advisors either in the office or in different companies as competitors, but you almost grow that camaraderie, that familiarity, that bond through that medium. You build friendships through that, and you get to experience and learn off of, okay, what's this person's practice doing? What situations are they running into? Oh, by the way, this, you know, regulation came out that might not be publicized somewhere. And you get to feed off of one another from that aspect and keep each other not only in tune with what's going on in the industry, but what's going on locally.
I love that.
We learn from other advisors. That's a big thing, especially when you're getting started. There's so much information to learn. Where do you start?
I feel like our office here is similar in that way, where I forget we're all competitors because technically we are, but we all bounce things off of each other all the time in that same way. So I can relate to that.
It's a big sandbox.
Exactly.
You know,
definitely.
We rarely run into. I mean, if I'm talking to somebody out in Santa Rosa at a networking event or a mix or something, and they ask me what I do, and I explain it, and they say, "Oh, I'm working with a financial advisor." My response is great. That's awesome.
Because you're excited.
Good job. Like you're doing the work that is needed to get yourself ahead. You're helping yourself, and that's really good because there's a lot of people that don't, and that's okay. But there's an opportunity to do it.
And is it ever too late to get started?
Best time to plant an oak tree is 20 years ago. Next best time is right now.
I like it.
So again, proactivity, whatever stage you're in, is key. It's just recognizing and then taking that next step forward.
That's great. What ongoing support and communication do you provide to your clients once a financial plan is in place? And how do you ensure that they stay on track with their financial goals? Because I assume it's a lot of communication in the beginning, and then follow up from there on out.
So, I mean, one thing that we try to keep as steady as possible is we have a standard process from fact finding and information gathering to developing a strategy to presenting, implementation, and that final one is always the most important, which is monitoring and reviewing. And at the end of any implementation process, it's always a standard to put in the calendar, we're going to connect either at, and I'll ask clients, do you want to connect monthly, quarterly, semi-annually? Some people just want to do it annually. It's not what I recommend, but you know, for simpler plans or implementations, maybe that's all that's needed. So that's always step one. The foundation of what you're asking is always have that regularly scheduled. It's just that check-in. Now,
and just to add on to that, we communicate through so many different methods now, right? There's so many different channels, but our primary is like email and phone, right? Sometimes we just pick up the phone, we want to check in on somebody, and that's great. And we'll hear about these updates and these life changes, and it's amazing how many times we call people and we're like, and you know, they say to us, "Oh, I've been meaning to call you. I have this thing happen." It's like, "Oh, that's great," or "Oh, that's bad." Well, how do we address it, right? What do you need us to do? What do you want us to work on? Or even on, like right now, it's tax time, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's filing their taxes or panicking.
so
All the
fun.
last minute emails. Hey, is it still
I'm
too late
pretty
to
sure I'm a lot of those last minute emails to you
Well.
guys. You're like, oh, here goes Amy again, another question.
No.
In the grand scheme of all the things we want to think about,
Totally.
last year's taxes are like necessary, but at the bottom of the fun pile.
Exactly. Oh,
Yeah.
way bottom of the fun pile. That's not fun at all.
But like as you know, like sometimes it takes multiple parties to coordinate, and
Yes.
Tom and I spend a lot of time doing that. Sometimes
Yep.
we're not communicating with the client; we're communicating with
Right.
a team,
Right.
and maybe that the client's busy, and we don't really need them to get involved for one little tiny question here
Yeah.
and there. So
Yeah, the other part is, I mean, because we do what we can, but
Right.
we don't have a crystal ball. We're not mind readers, and
Yep.
sometimes clients reach out to us, and
Yep.
kind of going back to what sets us apart. I mean, one thing that we enjoy about the way we run our practice is that clients have a direct line to us.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
can call us.
Great point. It's not like an
Direct.
800 number or
Exactly.
anything like that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and we want you to call us because if you
Yeah.
have to call us and it's important, it's important. We want you. Yeah, we want to talk
Yep.
to you, right?
Yep.
But the other side of that is and this goes for anybody, not just working with us, but if you have your own professionals, you want to make sure you're staying in touch. Sometimes you need to be reaching out to your professional, and not just them reaching out.
Right.
Because it takes two to tango, and in our industry,
Yeah.
we're going to help you be accountable, and we're going to help you keep on track. You have to be willing to be on track, right?
Yeah,
you have
do
to
the
be
work.
willing to do the work, and
Yeah.
it's
You're not
not bad,
magicians,
but-
you mean?
No,
Like,
no.
okay.
Sorry, babe. I'm not good with sleight of hand.
No.
Can't pull a bunny out of a hat.
It'd be helpful if you were, Tom.
It would.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
For
just
sure.
some things to think about.
Great. That's awesome. I love that it's not just like a one. I mean, everybody's lives are constantly evolving. Marriages, babies, like inheritances, things, right? Babies, I'm going to say it again in July.
Okay.
Baby. Jill,
House
baby.
Single
purchasing.
baby.
Just one baby. Just one baby. But, you know, it's important to kind of keep that conversation always going. It's not a one-time thing. So.
Yeah, correct.
And tax time. How do you address the emotional and psychological aspects of financial decision making with your clients? And what strategies do you use to instill confidence to alleviate anxiety during uncertain times? Because it is anxiety provoking for probably most people.
It is, and there is. Out of all the topics, this is probably the one we could spend the most time on.
Yeah.
And Tom and I spend a lot of time with our clients and people who just come in to meet us for the first time that have. Let's put it like this: everybody is different when it comes to money.
Right.
And some people have a lot of fear, some people have a lot of anxiety, some people have no problem at all. They
Right.
really like talking about it. That's what they're all about. That's fine. Everybody's a little different. So how do we address it, especially when somebody has concerns or anxiety, and what are we doing? Now, I'll give you an example. I work with a lot of medical professionals, and
Right.
there's no dedicated financial training, just like many professions, but particularly in the medical field. You get pretty sizable salaries going in after making nothing and working your tail off and going
Right.
to, doing whatever you're going to do. When you make that transition, you get your first big paycheck. What do you think most
Right.
people are doing?
Buying a new couch.
Yeah, well, whatever it is, it's not probably the best decision from a financial from a lack of financial education.
Right.
And so we spend a lot of time educating to empower people and to help get over anxiety, to help budget so you're not worried about where your bills are coming from, even if you are making great money.
Right.
There's a lot of anxiety in money. I don't care what stage you're at in life, whether you have an extra zero in front of your asset column or not, you are always going to be concerned with money.
For sure.
So we take our time and we listen.
That's a good approach to it.
And there's times when people are breaking down, crying about their money and their
I'm
finances, and it's okay. We're not here to pass judgment. We're here to help. We want to provide confidence. We want to provide plan. We want to provide solutions to help somebody get ahead,
Right.
so that they don't feel like that anymore.
Right.
We spend a lot of time doing that and being a therapist
Yeah, for sure.
more than an advisor.
Right.
And that's okay. We
Right.
like that. We're okay with that.
Well, because I think your overall goal is to help people, you know?
It goes back to, like I mentioned before, like Brian said, the number one thing is listening, making sure they feel heard, they know they're heard. And the other part is not yesing people to death.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with saying, listen, I don't have a solution right now. I don't have the answer, but knowing that you have someone on your side, on your team to help you through this.
Yeah.
And being that light at the end of the tunnel to a certain degree is how we handle that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes some pushing. And some people ask for that, some people don't, but we try and we try and balance things.
Yeah.
We want to be your accountability partner. So.
I love that. I love that. That's amazing. What inspires you the most about your work as financial advisors, and what do you hope to achieve in terms of impact and legacy through your profession?
Well, I mean, it's like anyone's value system or mission statement. That's going to change over time. You asked me that question 10, 5, 3 years ago. It was different than what it is now.
Right.
And it's probably going to change over the next 10 to 30 years. But sitting here right now, I mean, as it stands, the experiences I've had, I want to know that I've made a lasting difference in the people who I would consider have become close in my life.
Right.
Created some clarity through this ethereal conversation of finance, and growing that personal connection with people. I mean, it gets to the point where I'm invited to their kids' birthday parties, or
I love that.
we're getting a cocktail at the end of the night. We're going and grabbing dinner or something like that. So, building that personal network for myself and with people that I know, that I trust, especially living in Sonoma County. It's not a small town, but it's kind of a small town.
Yeah.
So your name is important when it comes to this stuff. So, it's going down in the annals of history as someone that was trusted, great to be around, helped others and put their needs first.
I love that. That's amazing.
And what I would say, too, for both of us is, because we talked about this a little bit before, it's a really interesting question because we have one of the best jobs on the planet.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's a hard job, but when it happens, when the goal of when everything that we've been working hard with our clients on over the years, months, decades, whatever it ends up being, when we can say, hey, you can retire.
That's so cool.
It's a cool feeling, okay?
Yeah.
Or, hey, you're done working if you want.
That's so cool.
Or, hey, you can pass this on and your kids are set up for life.
Yeah.
It's a pretty fulfilling
That's amazing.
experience. So.
It's kind of weird because I actually wanted to share this one experience. So I had someone put in the paperwork recently to start retiring, and I was more excited for it than they were. Because
like, we're here.
You do something for so long, for 20, 30, 40 years. You wake up every day, and that's what you do, and all of a sudden it changes like that. And we've been talking about it for years.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I think in our experience, too, with our parents and where they come from, I think on both sides of our families, we come from working class families, and we see the amount of hard work that they put in. And both of our parents are around roughly the same ages.
Yeah.
And those retirement years matter.
That's
so
awesome.
it's cool. It's cool. It's cool to be able to say that to somebody we've been working with.
That is really awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's also equally cool to give people their house keys, but I'm going to say your job's
It's
also
the same.
really cool.
It's the same thing. Except when you handed me my house keys, I said, "Oh boy, there's a big project."
I said, "All right, let's get started." Yeah.
You're going to have my keys eventually.
Fix that pool.
Yeah.
That's so true. I'm going to give you your keys
You
next.
are.
You're next. I'm feeling it. This is your year.
Yep.
That's amazing. So coming off of work a little bit, what are 3 fun facts about each of you personally?
I mean, there are plenty of facts. I don't know how many of them are fun. I mean, one of the biggest things for me is obviously how I got started doing it and what I do for fun. I'm a musician. I try to stick to that. I don't wake up looking like this every day, though some people might believe that.
That's funny.
You mean you don't just sleep at the office and stay there?
No.
Recharged every day?
No, I don't.
You plug into an outlet?
That's actually, I don't. Okay. Some might think so, but believe it or not, no. Just enjoying that hobby, that segment of my life. It's completely different. In fact, it's far removed. I don't associate any of the work stuff that I do with that side of my life.
Yep.
So being able to unplug and enjoy that intrinsically, altruistically.
That's awesome.
And then, what else would anyone say? Long walks on the beach, exploring Sonoma County, cooking, and I hack it up at the golf course every now and again and embarrass myself.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. These are all good facts. Especially long walks on a beach.
There you go.
Well,
Brian,
we live in such a beautiful
Yeah.
area, too. Like, what's there not to enjoy with Sonoma County and surrounding areas? Like, you can go 10, 15, 30 minutes somewhere at one completely different climate. I love going outdoors. I mean, and Because, well, one, we're in an office, so
Right.
it's not like we're going around all
Right.
day into different places. So it's great to get out.
Get to look outside.
Yeah,
Wave at it.
yeah,
Breathe
that's
fresh
right.
air.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, no, I fun fact, I would say something that's happened recently. I've been really enjoying taking on the learning curve that is being a DIYer. That's honestly the biggest thing. If
Yeah.
I had to say, like, fun fact is it's fun playing with construction
You're
tools.
doing such a good job on your house too. Like it's amazing. So
I've been
coming
enjoying
along.
the stories.
It's coming along.
you get the real
Vicariously.
stories. I just get to see the pretty stuff.
I'm,
The finished
Yeah,
product.
right.
Yeah.
I get the finished product pictures.
I'm looking forward to being done
Yeah,
with the main
settled.
stuff and you know, working on just
Yeah.
more fun projects.
Yes.
Rather
yes.
than the big structural.
Yes, those aren't fun.
No, not really, but it's important. It's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
But yeah, just being active. Love being
Great.
active, and you know, try and get outdoors. Evelyn and I spent so much time
Finish
together.
the pool.
Finish the pool. We're all ready for a pool party.
April.
Finish
Yeah,
the pool.
it's coming up. So.
Well, at the end of each episode, I like to ask if there's anyone that's really helped you in your career. You mentioned one person already. Is there anyone else in addition, or?
I mean, there's a ton of people I appreciate and thankful for. Obviously, my folks who, to their chagrin, they still give me a lot of crap for living 3,000 miles away. But just supporting me emotionally from that standpoint.
Yeah.
You know, the people that I work with, the friends that I have. But when it comes to this career in particular, it does primarily go back to Ball Palmer, who has
Amazing.
been senior partner. I mean, he took a chance on someone like me, someone like Brian, who didn't know what a 401k was. Probably could
Wow.
barely even spell it. But you know,
You mean we have to learn about taxes in this
Exactly,
career?
yeah.
What does that mean?
it's a real fun topic. But
That's amazing,
Yeah.
though. Yeah. Yeah.
He's a very influential man. He spent so much time with us in educating us not as just professionals, but as growing men and maturing men and
That's
being
awesome.
leaders and outside of the business place, being leaders in our personal lives and understanding things like how to deal with conflict. I mean,
Right.
there was so much more.
Wow.
That he's an extremely influential man and definitely changed our careers for the better.
And like a
Lots.
life mentor, it sounds like. Yeah.
absolutely.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
The other, another mentor for me is prior to getting started, my first professional job when I moved up here was at North Bay Biz Magazine, and one of the owners, Joni Rosinski, taught me the basics of what it is to be a professional and be in that role for the first time. I mean, she had a tremendous impact
great.
on my career, and really, I attribute the success I have once I started at New York Life, I attribute to the stepping stones being because of Joni Rosinski. So
Wow.
those
I
are my
love
two
that.
people.
That's amazing. And it's so important to like think back now that we're all at the ages we're at on who we can help to kind of make those next steps and put as much time into other people as we all received. Yeah.
Well, we spend quite a bit of time even in our office
Yes.
today. We mentor several new agents and
That's
advisors
amazing.
who are in their first and second years right now.
Wow.
I think between the both of us, we're mentoring about 5 people,
Wow.
Yeah.
something like that.
Yes, about.
So, and then they make it. They, or they have questions or whatever the case is. We try and pass that on. So
That's awesome. You're both so involved in the community too, so I think you're helping in those ways as well.
As much as we can.
that's a word for it. There's
Yeah.
a lot of hours that go into
Yeah.
community support.
Yeah.
Tom and I are both involved in lots of organizations and being involved in the community. Our biggest one right now is Active 2030
Awesome.
Runner Park. I got Tom to join finally after a couple years.
But you weren't even the first one that tried getting me to
I
join
know.
that particular club,
Yeah.
which is the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
How funny.
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
that's been going well.
Great.
And there's
That's
it's a small town and there's a lot of great local organizations you can be involved in.
Yep.
So
Yep.
better than sitting at home and
For sure.
So we have a good impact and we're happy with it.
That's great. That's really great. Where can my listeners find you if they're interested in your services, if they have questions, anything like that?
Right on the corner of West 9th and Stony Point Road.
There you
No,
go.
so we have our office at 149 Stony Circle, Suite 100, Santa Rosa. You can find us. I have a website, www.rfi-solutions. I'm on LinkedIn, but I don't really use it. I have a Facebook, and apparently I have an Instagram, but you'll never find me on there. I know I got to do a better job of having internet presence.
Right.
But I'm getting ready to get ready on that one.
Awesome.
Yep. You can find me on LinkedIn or Facebook. One of those, both of those are fine. If you just search our names,
Okay.
Into Google, you'll find us in a way to get a hold of us. Our contact info will come up like the first thing, I promise.
Great. Wonderful. Well, thanks you guys so much for coming in today. It was so
Thanks
fun
for
to have
having
you
us.
in
We
here.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
This was fun.
Isn't it fun? It's
Yeah.
a great little setup and a good way to just kind of learn more about what people do. So I love having
It's
you
a great
guys here.
format.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
going to cringe hearing the sound of my own voice, but that's besides
Just to watch the video. That's the part that gets me.
The video.
fair enough.
Awesome. Well, thanks you guys. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you like what you hear, please be sure to like and subscribe, learn more about Sonoma County and all that we have to offer here.